Hi, and welcome to the third part of our virtual Auburn Geosciences Prospective Graduate Student Open House. In this video, you'll hear from a few of our current graduate students. And today we have Brandon, Alyssa, Pedro, Lucas, and Ella that are joining us. So the first question I have for you is just to introduce yourself and give us a brief introduction. Ella, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Hi, I'm Ella Larsen. I'm from Stevensville, Michigan. I'm a master's student studying geology, and my research interests are geochemistry and hydrogeology. I'm looking at E. coli contamination in an eastern Alabama river.
Thanks, Ella. Lucas?
Hi, I'm Lucas Monroe. I'm originally from a small town of Rockville, Indiana, in southwestern Indiana. And I am studying with Dr. Laura Blinker, studying a gold silver deposit in southwestern Idaho and figuring out what the heck's going on there. I'm a second year's master's student, getting ready to finish up. And I think that's it.
Thanks, Lucas. Brandon?
Hi, I'm Brandon Ryan. I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. I'm a first-year master's student here in the geography department, and I'm also one of the funded NSF NRT trainees, working with Dr. Chandana Mitra on urban heat agglomerations in the southeast and climate change migration shifts into the future.
Great. Thanks, Brandon. Pedro?
I am Pedro Montalvo, and I am originally from Puerto Rico, and I am a PhD student here in the Department of Geosciences. And pretty much my focus is planetary geology and impact cratering and surface processes. I work with Dr. David King and Dr. Masatoshi Hirabayashi from the Aerospace and Engineering department, and I pretty much just look at remote sensing data from the moon and other airless planetary bodies like Ceres.
Great. And Alyssa?
Hi, I'm Alyssa Rivera. So I'm from Houston, Texas. I'm a first year's master's student working with Dr. Laura Blinker. My research is just kind of focusing on molybdenum and sulfur isotopes to determine what that can tell us about the source of molybdenum from different ore deposits. And I'm focusing on economic geology.
Great. Thanks, guys. I think this is a really nice cross-section of the type of students we have here at Auburn. So I'm glad those of you that are joining us get to hear from them. So the first question that I had for our panel is, why did you choose Auburn? So I know a lot of students have the opportunity to choose between graduate schools, and I would like to hear from our panelists to see why they chose Auburn. Ella?
Yeah, there were quite a few reasons I chose Auburn over some other schools. The big one being I really like the research that I'm doing in Dr. Ojeda's lab. It intersects a lot of what I want to be doing. Auburn is also one of the only high-ranking grad schools I was looking into. So Auburn is an R1. That means there's a lot of resources for funding, for TAing, which is amazing. And honestly, when I visited, the faculty and the students seemed the happiest of any of the places I visited. The culture here is very supportive and encouraging, and I really was excited to become a part of that.
Thanks, Ella. Lucas?
Along with some similar things with Ella was that first and foremost, I really liked the project and my advisor, Dr. Blinker, because when you're first contacting graduate schools, it's nice to get a really excited advisor commenting back with you, emailing with you, and kind of being encouraging and excited about the project along with you. And I had a couple opportunities to study or go into different fields, but I really liked economic geology, and I thought that'd be a really good path for my career and where I wanted to end up. Along with, it was a good assistantship along, like Ella said, it's really good. Auburn's really good with giving out great assistantships, and those were probably the two main factors for me.
Great. And for those of you that are listening, our department does support teaching assistant packages. So both Ella and Lucas referred to support through the department to teach and have a tuition waiver and a stipend associated with the teaching assistantship. Brandon?
Yeah, I guess I'd also like to echo what Ella and Lucas said. I think primarily for me, being an R1 university was kind of the biggest draw for me. I didn't really think research was something you could get into, but now that I'm here, I'm really excited. I kind of didn't know where I was going to end up this fall. There was a lot of different places I was looking, but interacting with the faculty, visiting the campus even, I kind of fell in love with it pretty immediately. And it's definitely a really awesome place to be. Furthermore, I guess primarily for me, being accepted into the NRT traineeship, which has to do with climate resilience and whatnot, was kind of the biggest draw since I come from a meteorology background. That idea of climate change and learning how to better communicate that information and being part of this program kind of was the selling point for me.
Great, thank you. Pedro?
Yeah, so in my case, since I'm a planetary geology in that niche, Auburn is actually one of the few universities here in the States that has currently an active planetary geology and impact cratering research program, led by my advisor, Dr. David King. And it has been contributing to the community, the planetary geology community, for a very long time. So you get that. My selling point was that experience in my field. So it would be, it was a pretty good choice for me to pick Auburn. It was that or outside of the States pretty much, and Auburn has a solid program.
Great, thank you, Pedro. Alyssa?
So for me, it's kind of echoing off of what Ella and Lucas said. So when I met with my advisor, Dr. Billinger, she was really excited and I really got along with her. So that was kind of one of my main reasons. And then as I looked more into Auburn, I really liked that there were a lot of women doing the research. So I came from a very small department that was mainly men, which is not a bad thing, but being able to be surrounded by a lot of women doing like great research was really nice. I really liked that, along with the assistantships was really great.
Yeah, great. Thank you, guys. So what I hear from you is that Auburn offers the research opportunities and the TA assistantships to make your research and teaching happen. Thank you for that. The next question I have for you is, what is it like living in Auburn? So I know a lot of students, when they're choosing graduate school, this may be the first time they make a move by themselves, and choosing a place to live is always a challenge. So I would like to hear from each of you what it's like living in Auburn and any challenges or triumphs you had transitioning to Auburn. Ella?
Yeah, I think Auburn is a great college town. It's kind of got that like small town community feel to it, but it's obviously a big university, so you have all of that, you know, the shopping and like different food places, but it's like a nice, you know, football and all of that is huge. So everyone is really welcoming and warm too. I think the Southern hospitality is like alive and well. And I think rent is pretty cheap compared to a lot of other big college towns. So that's a major plus. You're a little far from an airport, but it's like 2 hours to Atlanta. So it's nothing too bad. I'd say overall, I'm really happy with where I live in Auburn.
Great, thank you. Lucas?
Yeah, Ella covered a lot of it, or at least the main thing is that it's not too big, but it's also not too small. You kind of get that small town college vibe where there's enough to do, but you're also not in. I'm from a small town, so sometimes big cities can be a little hectic for me. So I enjoyed coming from a smaller area and transitioning to a larger, but not too big for me. And kind of to echo the football and the sports and everything is pretty fun to follow and interact with, and something, since I've been here for a while now and getting to know the department and the people, has been really awesome for living in Auburn. It seems like there's a lot of graduate students interact a lot. We hang out, we talk about things, and also with a lot of the professors as well. kind of on my way out, but I'm kind of first name basis with some professors now. It's just like, hey, how you doing? And sit there and talk to them in their office. So it's been pretty nice living in Auburn. It's been a really good, I guess, experience for me. And there's a bunch of construction with new apartments and stuff going up. So I think there's plenty of places to live, and it's relatively cheap as well, too.
Great, thanks, Lucas. Brandon?
Yeah, definitely for me, the biggest thing has been coming from sort of a medium to bigger size city to a smaller place. For me, at least, I really enjoy it. It's a lot less hectic. There's not crazy drivers everywhere. So it's a bit slower, which for me, I really like. And being that college town feel where kind of everything seems to revolve around the university. Everyone's super nice, super awesome. Campus is really, really pretty. That's kind of one other big thing. I love taking walks through campus in the evening. It's really nice to do. Tons of food options. You know, like Lucas said, it's not too big, but it's not too small. You know, there's definitely enough to do without getting kind of too overwhelmed. So I think it's an absolutely wonderful place to be.
Great, thanks. Pedro, what was it like for you transitioning to Auburn?
It was a challenge. Since I come from Puerto Rico, I had to travel by plane and move over here. So it was. I moved in with my girlfriend, and she is a current graduate student here in Auburn too. But we drove from Florida up to Alabama to move with all our stuff and our cat. So it was a unique experience, and it was the first time that I ever done that. First time that I lived here in the States, and I like Auburn. I'm gonna echo what Brandon said. The past college town that I lived in Puerto Rico, it was very hectic, and I like that Auburn is quiet and nice and cheap too. Also, what Lucas and Ella said, the department. It's awesome. We are all the grad students make it very welcoming too. So living in Auburn, it's really nice. I like it.
Great, thanks, Pedro. Alyssa?
Yeah, so just to kind of build off, so when I moved here, it was kind of in the middle of like the pandemic. So being able to come to Auburn to try to find an apartment was really tough. So, I mean, if anyone runs into that situation, what I did was I reached out to some of the grad students under Dr. Blinker. I reached out to Lucas, was one of them, and asked just about apartments around here. And I did a lot of Google Maps to try to find out what's close. One thing I do like about Auburn is that it's small, but not too small. It's very easy to find your way around. I think I used like Google Maps to find places for a week, and then I knew where everything was. So it's not really confusing to find things. And most of the apartment complexes are pretty close to campus. So I think I live in one of the further ones, and it's like a 10-minute drive, which is really nice. I also really liked that all of the grad students kind of got together and included everyone. That was one of my big fears, because I heard that doesn't really happen. But the fact that we have clubs and just they really try to include everyone was really nice. Also, I'm a big coffee person, so I really like that there's a bunch of like mom and pop coffee shops around. So if you ever get tired of like sitting at your apartment doing schoolwork or being on campus, you can go to these little coffee shops, and it's just a nice atmosphere, and everyone is really friendly.
That's great. I'm a big coffee person too, Alyssa, and I'll hold you to that. I love Mama Mochas is my favorite.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you guys. All right, it's really great to hear all of your perspectives on transitioning to Auburn. It seems like we have people that come from small towns and Auburn is bigger, people that have come from big towns and Auburn is smaller, but it seems like we're all focusing on this idea that Auburn is not too big and not too small, right? That's what I heard from almost everybody. That's great. The last question I have for you is to ask your career plan, and how have your classes or your research prepared you for that, that long-term path? Because graduate school is a means to an end, right? So how do you plan to use your experiences here at Auburn to further your own career goals? Ella?
Yeah, I'm still pretty unsure about what I want to do in the future, but for now, I know that I really enjoy teaching and am planning on, after I get my master's, maybe doing some teaching at a community college somewhere. And Auburn has been great for that because we have, I'm on a TA-ship, like Anne mentioned earlier, and it's really, I think it's a big confidence builder to be independently running a class and sort of structuring everything yourself. So that resource is great. And also, if I ever decide that I want to go into environmental consulting or do a PhD with more research, I think my experience within our lab is invaluable because I get to use all of that technology, run all the analysis myself, along with, sorry, my phone is going off right now. I don't know if you can hear that.
It's okay.
Yeah, but I also get to present in class, so through classes I'm using the labs, and I'm also doing presentations, lots of public speaking experience. So I feel pretty confident that whatever path I choose, my experiences at Auburn are support either of those paths really well.
Great, thanks, Ella. What about you, Lucas?
Yeah, so I'm finishing up my master's degree. I'll be done here in hopefully by the end of April if everything goes well. And the plan for me has always been to go into industry. And so with my project and studying economic geology, I'd like to go into working for a mine company or dealing with that area, mine consulting or something. And so with that idea and plan, I kind of shape my classes and my research along with things to help build my skills and things I can put on my CV and resume. So research wise, using these different techniques, different tools and instruments, and getting familiar with those is really going to help me, I guess, shine or look better out when I go to apply to some places because I know how to use some of these things, as well as some of the classes have opportunities to learn certain things like Dr. Ojeda's class, our aqueous geochemistry. I learned how to manipulate and do some stuff in Geochemist Workbench, which could be important to me in the future going out into the job field, or taking other courses that'll help you build on skills, work with certain machinery, and that'll eventually hopefully help me in the future there. And I think that's a lot kind of what I got to say.
Great, thanks, Lucas. Brandon?
Yeah, so I guess after I finish my master's, I'm thinking about transitioning into a doctoral program. And then after that, I don't know where I'll end up. But the biggest thing for me, especially with the NRT, is you kind of follow a non-traditional class schedule, I guess, for the geosciences department. The NRT kind of allows you to take classes within different schools as well, like the School of Forestry or Agriculture. So it has allowed me so far to kind of get exposed to different fields that also have to do with climate change and climate resilience, which I would have never thought about. Kind of one of the biggest classes for me was my natural hazards course, which I just recently took, which is something I never would have thought about or never thought that I would want to do research in, and has like really, really, really fascinated me. And it is something that career-wise, I might consider. So I think from the NRT's perspective, it's really nice. Also, if you pursue a master's or the doctorate, there is a internship during the summer that is required for doctorate students and recommended for master's students. So they pair you with different stakeholders that are a part of the program, and you have the opportunity to work with them during the summer, which can obviously lead to potential career pathways. So I think it's a really great program and has really kind of catapulted me to different avenues that I would have never considered.
That's great, thank you. Pedro, what about you? What's your career plan and how has your coursework and your research at Auburn prepared you for that?
Yeah, so in my case, since I'm a PhD student, sometimes if you're pursuing PhD, you might be a little bit constrained to academia, but I do actually want to be in academia. I really want to pursue that as my career path. I would love to teach and conduct research and in my future, pretty much what you guys do. So I would like to have that. So in case of my courses, the Earth System Science program here this is the PhD program in Auburn, the one that I'm part of, is new, and its courses are very lit review intense, and they are not particularly in my area of research, but they prepared me to with tasks such as lit review present preparation and how to synthesize and dissect peer-reviewed publications. And I feel like these skills are very useful if you are trying to pursue academia. I believe that 90% of the time you're reading a paper or trying to understand a paper or find information in paper. So like PhD courses have helped me a lot with that. And my research has showed me a very different side, at least in planetary geology. I used to work with a lot of sample impact-derived samples from impact craters here in Earth. But now I'm more of a remote sensing kind of area in that spectrum. So it has allowed me to expand my knowledge in these research areas. And I think it's really important, specifically if you are pursuing academia.
Right. That's
yeah.
very cool. Thanks. Pedro, what about you, Alyssa?
So I'm kind of in the same boat as Ella. I'm not quite sure what path I want to take just yet. I'm kind of at this moment in my life aiming a little bit more towards industry. So the classes I've taken have really kind of helped me be able to kind of present the data that I find, and also with teaching, be able to explain things that maybe most people don't understand in a different way. Also just being a grad student and having your classes along with working on your thesis has really kind of helped with time management, because that is, I'm learning, a very big thing. Like if you don't manage your time very well, then everything just goes crazy. And also just kind of being able to put myself out there a little bit more, like with Dr. Ojeda's class, obviously working with Geochemist Workbench, that was something that I never knew existed until I took aqueous geochemistry. And then also like having the packback questions kind of really helped me think a little bit harder on what I was reading, and kind of use critical thinking skills, which will help a lot in industry.
Great, thank you. Guys, I really appreciate your perspectives on these questions. I think you will really connect with prospective students that are out there watching. So with that, we will say thank you. And if anybody has any questions, I encourage you to email those questions to a potential advisor, and they can get you in contact with graduate students that are in their lab, and that you can ask specific questions. Otherwise, I really encourage you to watch the next part of our series, which is how to apply.